While women have had their reproductive rights stripped away from them with the federal government essentially stepping in, or I should say state governments stepping in and telling them what they can and can't do with their bodies, Jordan Peterson will have you know that the real victims in this country are people like him, people like Dave Rubin, people like Ben Shapiro and other mansion dwellers who found out the hard way, I guess, that there might be some consequences on social media platforms if you violate their terms of service, which are very clear and stated on the platforms. Now, Jordan Peterson is still crying about being suspended from Twitter after he decided to go after an actor who identifies as transgender. We covered this, but it's continuing. So here's some context before we go to Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro. Last week, Jordan Peterson was suspended for tweeting this. Remember when pride was a sin and Ellen Page just had her breast removed by a criminal physician? So what he did there was more of the same, okay? Going after the transgender community, in this case, dead naming Elliot Page, who identifies as male, and makes a weird comment about breast removal, which makes him even more creepy than I previously thought. Now, he was notified about why the suspension happened, and the terms of service specifically said, you may not promote violence against, threaten, or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, yada, yada, you guys get the point. But Jordan Peterson, like other right wingers, love to intentionally violate the terms of service, so they get suspended and then they become martyrs. Then they become part of this never-ending oppression Olympics, even as normal people are actually being oppressed by our politicians as we speak. So, by the way, Babylon Bee also got suspended for similar commentary on Twitter. And Jordan Peterson has really taken a stand here, okay? He released a video on YouTube in which he compared any kind of gender-affirming surgery to Nazi experimentation. So why don't we take a quick look at that?
With regard to the final phrase, criminal physician, I must say that I've had some post-coital, so to speak, regrets about that phrase. It is clearly the case that the surgical operation performed by the butchers who butchered Elliot/Ellen was legal. So, was it criminal or not? Were the operations undertaken by the fascist physicians who carried out the Nazi medical experiments legal? Yes, under the laws of the time. But were they criminal? I'll leave that question up to you to answer.
This is like at a time when we're seeing never-ending mass shootings in this country perpetrated by young men. I think it's problematic that that guy is the advice guru, the lifestyle guru. That guy is unhinged and should not be giving anyone advice. But anyway, no, there was no criminal activity in the gender-affirming surgery that was performed on Elliot Page. Criminality would indicate that laws were broken. A person who did that surgery would be prosecuted for that. There is no prosecution because there was no criminality. We have more from this lunatic, but before we get to it.
So there's a twist here in a second. But first, he looks like, I haven't watched that Man in a High Castle, but it feels like that kind of vibe from the commercials, right? Like he looks like an evil guy, and he sounds so weird. And why did you shoot it from the side? Are you trying to be artistic? I thought this was like an emotional plea.
It's just creepy.
Like everything about this guy is like, on a scale of 1 to 10 on creepy, it's 20.
What was his comment about post-coital? Like,
yeah, what was
no one buys that you're post-coital anything.
But it didn't have any logical connection to anything else he was saying. He just wanted to say post-coital, partly because he knows that his followers don't understand it. So they'll be like, ooh, he's an intellectual. Every time I see Jordan Peterson, I laugh. Every time I hear him speak, because they think he's an intellectual. That just endlessly amuses me, okay? So now, can
the hot jocks please stop hoarding all the hot women? It's really unfair to all the unattractive loser men who aren't getting laid. That's Jordan Peterson.
That was an intellectual argument he had. Okay, anyways, So now the twist for me is, I think Twitter's policy is wrong. So not on the harassment and the et cetera, which is what Anna read you, but there is something very specific in there in their application. So if they dead name someone who is transitioned, they're automatically suspended. I don't agree with that rule. Now, do I think that you should dead name people? No. I think that the whole world is picking out trans people, or at least the country is, and pretending it's the most important issue. No, it's not the most important issue, and you shouldn't pick on them. I don't know what's wrong with all of you people. And by the way, the real victims are not the ones who live in the mansions, as Anna pointed out, but there's been over 600 laws passed against the LGBTQ community just over the last couple of years, all by Republicans. So no, there are real victims. They are trans, and they are in the LGBTQ community overall, and they're actually legally trying to oppress them and take away their rights. That being said, I don't think that it should be suspension just to say the dead name. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's hard to avoid. You know, when you're talking about, for example, Caitlyn Jenner, when she was in the Olympics, what are you supposed to call her? So I think that's a legitimate, interesting question, and I don't think that is worthy of a suspension. I
think there are well-intentioned people who are doing their best, and we got to be understanding, right? Not everyone is, deeply engaged in these topics, in these issues. They might not be as informed as we would like them to be, whatever it is. And so they might unwittingly tweet something that is offensive. They might accidentally dead name someone. And yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that it is an interesting, nuanced conversation. But at the same time, I do want to differentiate that from what is very much intentionally happening with people like Jordan Peterson, who this is his bread and butter. This is how his entire career started. Let's just be real about that, right? Making himself the martyr, making himself the one who's wronged, making himself the one who's somehow oppressed, even though he's raking in millions, giving guru speeches across the country, if not the world. Homeboy's good, okay? He is not some sort of oppressed victim. He has turned this into his grift, and it's been very profitable for him. So what they do, and see, Steven Crowder does it, all these right-wing grifters do it. They intentionally violate the terms of service for an online platform that is not owned by the government, that is a private company or a publicly traded company, which means that the constitutional rights that protect our free speech do not apply to this business, right? But they know that and they don't care. They still make themselves out to be the oppressed ones. I've never seen Jordan Peterson or any other right-winger who's constantly crying about being suspended from Twitter after very much intentionally violating their TOS, say anything about the anti-BDS legislation that literally allows the government to punish people who engage in the boycott and divestment movement for the Israeli government. They have no problem with that, even though, in my opinion, the government punishing you for your political speech is a violation of the First Amendment. They don't care about that. They're the real victims here. They're the real oppressed ones. You have another idiot like Dave Rubin jumping in on the grift. We'll get to him in a second. But first I want to go to the next video, because here's Jordan Peterson saying he would rather die than delete the tweet that got him suspended. Let's watch.
In response to the decision of an actor named Ellen Elliott Page, I am employing this awkward and impossible naming style because it is now apparently mandatory, and am probably doing it wrong nonetheless, as you're doing it wrong is the whole point of what is being made mandatory. But also, I'm trying to make a point. I've essentially been banned from Twitter as a consequence. I say banned, although technically I have been suspended. But the suspension will not be lifted unless I delete the hateful tweet in question, and I would rather die than do that.
A 10-year-old girl was just impregnated by her rapist in Ohio. 10-year-old girl, she's pregnant. She had to travel out of state to Indiana to get an abortion because her state of Ohio has effectively banned all abortions after 6 weeks. That 10-year-old who was carrying a rapist child and was further victimized by the state, that's someone who's being oppressed. Jordan Peterson, I mean, he could barely even act, like he's acting throughout that video. What a clown. You are not a victim, you are not oppressed. Intentionally violating the terms of service for Twitter and then getting suspended as a result does not make you a martyr, it doesn't make you a victim, it makes you a massive, pathetic grifter. How much money is enough? I wanna know. How much money is enough? Yeah. And by the way, with all that money, you would think that this man would have, I don't know, the common sense to buy a suit that's not ill-fitting. But no, can't be bothered with that either. He's got to look like a clown, both physically and sound like a clown every time he speaks.
Yeah, so they would never want to be actual victims. I mean, that 10-year-old was raped. And then forget the 9 months that the Republicans and right-wingers want her to carry the baby, don't. But we take that out of the equation when you're talking about Jordan Peterson. Imagine if he suffered something like that, and then they said, oh, by the way, you're the guy who raped you, this is a random kid of his. You have to take care of that kid for the rest of your life. Imagine how Jordan Peterson would react. He'd be like, what is this? Like, no, nobody actually wants to be a victim. Being a victim sucks. It's terrible. You guys only like it because you're fake victims. It doesn't actually hurt you at all. And you say things like, oh, my First Amendment rights, because you know your followers aren't bright enough to understand the First Amendment. So here, but I have an easy solution to all of this. Peterson said, I'm not taking down that tweet or acknowledging that my tweet violated Twitter rules. Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who. Twitter's a rat hole in the final analysis.
Great, log off.
Yeah, that's it.
Log off, Grandpa.
No, but that's
log off.
No, we've already accomplished the mission. For the first time, we agree with Jordan Peterson, and not in his analysis of Twitter, but in that Twitter suspended you. You don't want to be on Twitter. Everybody's a winner.
Great.
Okay, great. Then why are you still crying?
Because it's his bread and butter. That's how he makes his money. Dave Rubin also got banned after he tweeted in defense of Jordan Peterson. The insanity continues at Twitter. Jordan Peterson has been suspended for his tweet about Ellen Page, again, dead naming Elliot Page. He just told me he will never delete that tweet. And then they always go cry to their, like little tattletales crying to their little daddy, Elon Musk, who can't do a damn thing because he hasn't purchased Twitter. And it's very likely he will renege on that deal. So paging Elon Musk, please daddy, please come to our defense. Anyway, he got suspended for that tweet, which, again, it's a violation of their terms of service. He knows it, but they love it. They love it every time they get suspended or banned. It's a perfect way to continue that grift.
Yeah, imagine if I told you guys, oh, Trump's platform, Truth Social. I went on there and then they banned me. I'm the victim. They're terrible. Truth Social is the worst site I've ever seen. I can't believe they won't let me on it. You'd be like, wait, Cenk, that doesn't make any sense. You just said it was the worst site. Why are you complaining that they won't let you on it, right? But for the right wing, they all find it totally normal. They're like, oh, yeah. We hate that thing, but we gotta be on it, because otherwise, how can we yell at liberals and progressives and do the only thing that we care about, which is hating and oppressing other people?